Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another live edition here on Inside Utica University Football Podcast here on the Rock Pile tonight. Episode number 5 here with Coach Faggiano. We'll bring Coach on here in just a second. We'll be recapping last week's big homecoming win and then the big game this week against nationally ranked Cortland State. So we'll talk to Coach about that and much more. If you're tuning in tonight across all the social media platforms, make sure to hit subscribe and share the videos as much as you can. We've been averaging over about 4,000 views with Coach and I. It's been a fun show. I'm looking through my stuff here, and it's hard to believe it's already week 5 of the shows here in the game. So the season goes really quick here in fall. You wish it upon us, and then next thing you know, you turn around, you look, and you say, "Where'd the season go?" And the fall weather's here. It was nice and cool tonight at practice. I know Coach mentioned the same thing. The weather's starting to turn. So excited for that, excited for all that and more tonight. Again, if you're following on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast too as well, I appreciate you listening and tuning in on all the podcast platforms. Make sure to hit subscribe on YouTube. And if you got a question or comment for Coach tonight, put it in the comment box. We'll bring over as many as we can. So let's bring Coach on. There he is. Coach, what's happening tonight?
Yankees. Go Yankees.
Yeah, I was telling you, my dad called and he's like, you guys are up against the Yankee games. And I said, Dad, I know. We go a half hour, maybe we'll miss a couple innings. And then there's a football game on at 9. There's a college game on tonight. Sam Houston State and who's Sam Houston playing tonight? I was looking at the games tonight. New Mexico State. So we got a college game on.
Those are always good games.
They're always good guys. I feel like all those late games sometimes, some of the ones are on at 10 and 11 that nobody pays attention to. They end up being really good games. So, Coach, let's get to it. I was at this one last week, and I was telling you when we came on, I walked through the tailgate, and, man, those kids were getting after it. They were having a lot of fun. It was packed over in that tailgate area.
The homecoming at Utica is the real deal. Everyone comes back home, and, it's always the same thing during the week. All the sororities come up. Coach, can we get our tailgate passes? And the hockey team and the lacrosse teams, and it's really just a fun atmosphere, and really unique this year because for the first time we inducted our Hall of Fame the same weekend, and I know they felt it went very well. Friday night was the ceremony along with our Oneida Square Society folks, but then honoring the Hall of Famers at halftime was really special. So some unique things this year at homecoming.
Yeah, and Coach, let's start with it too. Alfred State, their first year in the conference. We talked about that on a couple of shows here coming into last week. You guys had, I loved it. Special teams was the big story here for you guys. You guys had some block punts, a big block punt that set up your first score. Talk about how special the special team play was for you guys.
Well, I mean, it was huge. Every year there's those guys that all of a sudden make the decision to be dominant on special teams, right? So like Nate Hernandez started week 1, had a couple struggles. His name was called again this week and just came out and played outstanding. Not only did he block the 2 punts, but then his punt coverage was outstanding. So really, really like how he stepped up. Just a sophomore safety, out of the Albany area, and then Breon Campbell comes in and blocks a field goal, which is huge. And we go to do the bloop kick, and really heads up play by Tony Rosinski, Whitesboro here, and local guy, and recovers the fumble on their sideline. And what was really great about it is we blocked the punt, we recovered the fumble, we do have the interception on defense, and our offense scored on all those opportunities early. So definitely, was happy with that. Now, it didn't end the way I wanted. Everyone's wondering why I'm upset. Well, because we gave up a kick return for a touchdown at the end of the game, but their running back's a good player. We had 6 touchdowns the week before. It's like they're running up the middle or they're pitching the ball out on the numbers. So there's some challenges to that. And, but just liked how our kids played overall.
Coach, I know you've been talking since we've been doing a show. Your defense just flies around, and this was the first time I got to see him in person. And some of those guys on the back ends, the linebackers, the DBs, they were all over the field, flying around and making plays. I think you guys held Alfred State, to, I think, just under 70 yards rushing, but that defense really flew around.
Coach McClendon, we talk about in our defensive meetings, and run into the football. Run into the football, and that's one thing our guys do. It may not always be pretty, but if a guy misses a tackle, there's 2 or 3 more guys that are going to show up. And so definitely like how with the intent that group is playing for sure.
Coach, and I know this game that the score was a little out of hand late in the game, and I know you, as all coaches would say, you guys gave up that kick return for a touchdown, so you were disappointed in that. But you guys I think you guys played all your quarterbacks. There were some different formations, a lot of quarterback runs. How nice is it to be able to get some of those guys into the game?
Oh, that's just huge with buy-in. I was looking at our game notes quick tonight, and just the number of different receivers and ball carriers. It was pretty impressive. The fact that Polaris comes in our Raven package and did a great job, and then it was the first that we saw. We've had that package for Nazir and kind of unveiled that a little bit, got that on film. Both those guys are New Jersey guys, very committed. Coach Zanelovic's got a great quarterback room right now, and then Fuller gets an opportunity, goes 5 for 5 and throws a touchdown pass to Gabe. And so, certainly was pleased how those guys played. As the game went on, it was like we just made the decision we're going to run the ball and stay healthy going into the next week. Is kind of what happened. But one of the things in football they talk about is the middle 8, and so I was really pleased with how we played in the middle 8 minutes of the game. What was really wild was scoring before half. I mean, I think it was under a minute, 54 seconds, and we go the length of the field and score a touchdown. And so that was a really big going into halftime, being able to score like that.
And Coach, I know when we talked during the season too, earlier in the year, we said, and I thought you guys had one of the best, not only quarterback rooms, but skilled rooms with receivers, your running backs, and the group that you were bringing back. A lot of guys have been catching balls from Ty. I mean, Bryce, 10 catches, 112 yards. Ty with 285 yards and 4 touchdowns. But talk to us a little bit about the skilled guys and how special they are for you guys.
Well, for sure, and showing some depth. Everyone kind of by now knows we lost Tyshawn Taylor. Unfortunately broke his collarbone, number 13. Just an amazing young man out of Syracuse IT, and losing him is a big hurt. But other guys have stepped up, and Lorenzo Velez and Gabe Zawala and some guys and stepping up into those roles, and then using Logan Frederick, both not only as an on-ball, off-ball tight end, but as a receiver. I think those have been things that have helped helped our offense as far as being balanced.
And Coach, I know we always talk special teams, and we talked about the black punts, but I want you to talk about the kickers too, because I think your punter had 3 kicks down inside the 20. I think you made all 6 extra points, and I think Nico kicked, a 23, 24-yard field goal. So special teams all around had a good day.
They did. Nico, great, made all those extra points. It had a nice field goal. We obviously wanted a touchdown there, but we needed the field goal. I think that took us from 35 to 38 points. Had a great bloop kick. He's really talented at doing those types of kicks, and that's helped our kickoff team and take some pressure off of those guys. Particularly when you play some dynamic returners, it's the ability to bloop. Is key to be able to do that and try not to put it in the hands of a team's best player. And then Devin Taylor, he's a very talented punter out of Tampa, Florida. He's a physical therapy major, and Devin, I think he averaged 40 and get along at 50, and you're right, had a few inside the 20, so he really played well in his role too.
And on the defensive side of the ball, I finally, again, I got a chance to see some of these guys in person. And Isaiah, IT was special for you, had a nice game. I think he had 7 or 8 tackles. And then CJ played well as too. But those guys up front can move as well.
They can. I thought Jordan Davis was really dominant in the game. They had a hard time blocking JD, as we call him. And, the whole group, Moranowitz, DeForest, and then we rotate guys in. Nemhard, Jerome, Austin DeGroat, Christian, Parham Roan, those guys all rotate in and they're making plays. And then that buck position, Mason Muscari, Cam Brister, like rotating those guys and keeping them fresh. That kind of helps free up those linebackers, whether it be, we call them IT, right? IT, Isaiah Thomas or CJ or Luke Sheldon. I think it makes it nice playing behind those big bodies up front, and they're playing physical.
Coach, how nice is it? Because it seemed like you were able to get a lot of guys on both sides of the ball in in this past week's game against Alfred State. Talk to us a little bit about how nice it is to get some of those guys in there and get them some experience.
Well, it's something that we'd like to be able to do more of. I can tell you in the past, I've been frustrated where it's like we haven't been able to do that. You know what I mean? And in a game where you're hoping, if you think that's going to happen, then it never happens, right? If you expect you're going to go in and beat somebody by 3-4 scores and get everybody in the game, right? It just kind of happens. And certainly appreciative we got ourselves in that position so we could get those guys those game reps. You know what I mean? Get the second offensive line out there. Get some other guys on defense out there. Get those guys like a Joey Gentile that's a package guy out of Proctor at safety, but then all of a sudden you got to get some good reps at safety there and give Eli a blow. So, some of those guys, that's just big for them. You know what I mean? So it just makes for a great homecoming, weekend. And then the JVs went down to Hartwick Sunday and got a win. And so I know a lot of the parents came up and spent the whole weekend, went down to the short ride down to Hartwick. So, our parents right now, well, man, the tailgate is second to none. It really is. And you talk about a family atmosphere and welcoming people in. And, we've had recruits at the last couple home games, close to 25 recruits at each game, and their families come into the tailgate, and that's all they talk about, just how welcoming everyone is, and the atmosphere that we have. So really appreciative of that.
I love the atmosphere for you guys coming out onto the field, but going back to the tailgate, this is really funny because most people would always say, "Hey, you're Coach Little C or Coach C." I walked through some of the tailgate stuff, Coach, and people actually knew who I was. Some of them said, "You're that guy on the podcast with Coach." I said, "All right, at least a few people know who I am, but most people say you're Coach Little C." People are saying you're on the podcast with Coach. So
did you meet Moose Hogan and Mr. All Day Football? Did you meet those guys or what?
I couldn't tell you who I met. I met so many people came up to me. There's a lot of guys that had the football alum shirts on, which was pretty cool. But I was just laughing, like, at least I'm known for something with Coach, right? It was pretty cool, though. I loved it.
Those guys are all in. They're all in. It was First Source. had the tent. And John Calabrese is a Utica alum, and they had a blast. And all our guys went in there, and they like doing autographs with the players. So our guys were all in the tent and doing autographs after the game, and I know all the folks at First Source had a good time, and it was a teacher appreciation game as well. So, appreciate all the folks at First Source for supporting us. And, I believe we had some New Hartford football players in there because I know Pam Way was in there, and I'm hoping that her son and their quarterback and some guys were in there watching us. So, but it's great people, and glad they had a great time.
So, Coach, in comes you guys go to Cortland. I'm sorry to say in comes Cortland, but 28 straight conference wins. I was looking at another crazy stat: 45-5, 4 Umpire 8 titles. 2023 obviously was a national championship year. That's since 2021, 28 straight. That's got to pump your team up. Say, let's go up there and give it a shot.
Well, again, they have obviously they're very good athletic school. Have a great athletic director. From Millian, great dude, and really good people. And obviously, Coach Fitzpatrick did a great job there. The minute he showed up, and I think they're a program. They've always had some really good athletes, and Coach Fitz showed up and right out the gate, and that whole staff he put together. Coach Morgan was on his staff for I forget if it was a year or 2 years before he became the head coach at Buff State. So. Had a lot of success there for sure. You know what I mean? And wasn't surprised. Wasn't surprised. He's a good football coach, and this is a game we're looking for. We're looking forward to, no doubt about it. Everyone knows, the last couple of years, right? Cortland won the conference and won the national championship, right? And then the year before that, I think Brockport had beat Cortland like 7 years in a row, right? And Brockport and then before Brockport, it was Alfred, right? And so obviously at Utica, we're battling like when's it going to be our time, right? So certainly a big game. It's interesting as people look at the scores, in Grove City, you know what I mean? And they obviously it's very similar. Like they lose to Grove City, they turn the ball over, right? And we lose to Hobart, we turn the ball over and had bad field position. So, it's I told the guys, it's a big game because of all the work that we've put in to make it a big game. And, you're certainly excited, but you got to just play. You just got to go play. You know what I mean? And you can't, it's so big. Like you try too hard, you try to do too much, you make mistakes, right? Just do your job. Love playing with your brothers. Play for the guy to your right and the guy to your left, and kind of surrender the outcome and just go play. And our guys have been loose. We had a great week of practice, and excited for the opportunity for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine too, the team's got to be pumped up to say, it's a challenge. And again, I don't think anybody's going to pick you guys to go down there and find a way to upset them. But if I'm a player, you get a chance to go play in, great atmosphere, a ranked team, nationally ranked team, nothing to lose. Let's go out there and play. And you guys, as we said, Coach, you guys have been challenged. Your first 3 non-conference games are against 3 really good teams. So you guys are well challenged, right, leading up into this game.
Yeah, like I said, when it's all said and done, and you're looking week 10, looking back, I still believe the first 3 teams we played are going to have winning records.
Absolutely.
I really believe that. And I know Hobart had a tough, close loss, 1-score loss to Utica this past weekend, but RPI is obviously a very good football team. They beat Rockport in overtime. New York Division III football is, we all beat each other up, right? We're just trying to win a conference or get to that postseason. And it's not always an easy thing to do. There's great football and great coaching, as we talked about on the show. It's great coaching in the conference. So, then W&J turns around. They had a bye week, which helped them kind of regroup, and then they got after Grove City. So it's all fun to talk about. Now we'll talk about it on the show. It's probably the only time I've really talked about it, but it's more about what's our game plan, right? What coverage are they going to give us on third down, right? What are they going to do on special teams? And I think that's. The guys have been making fun of me about, we talk about the sauce and the secret sauce. And I think what's in the sauce for this weekend is just executing the game plan to a high level. And the team that executes more is going to find a way to win the game, I'm sure Cortland's looking at that Hobart game, and Hobart played a smart, error-free football game. Coach Blumenauer's got a great staff he put together there, well-coached football team. They're very good at running the football. Anytime you have a quarterback, that's a big part of the run game. Always gives you challenge. It's almost like playing the option, right? And so it's really important that guys do their responsibility and don't try to do too much and fit the run accordingly. And they're certainly going to make some plays, and you got to find a way to make a few more plays than they do at the end.
Yeah, and I know we talked a little bit about it last week, but you hate to say you score watch and you look through some of these teams in the conference and stuff, and we said this conference to me I think is wide open, top to bottom. It's good every week. And then I look at the Cortland State where they lost to Grove City. I think they turned it over like 7 times. I think they had like 6 interceptions, a fumble, like something you don't see from Cortland State, but you take that away. They were right in that game for most of that game.
They were. And then I'll tell you what, Union game was a good game for about 3 quarters, and then Cortland pulled away in the 4th quarter on that. Union seems like they've improved from a year ago for sure. So it's interesting. And then, we're all human. So everyone looks at the scores on Saturday night, but you don't spend a lot of time on it, right? It's back to, hey, what's the game plan? And you're watching the game film, and it's all about the teaching,
Coach, is there any parts from looking at Cortland State, is there anything that you see that you feel like you guys will be able to kind of attack a certain area, come Saturday? I know coaches are going to say, we got to be able to run the football, play really good defense, stop the run, special teams. I know all that, but is there any areas that you can see that you guys can attack?
Talking about their strengths. I'll talk about Cortland's strengths. Like they run the football very well. Their quarterbacks had 3 straight 100-yard rushing games. And we'd say he's got the strongest arm that we've seen as far as throwing the ball down the field, right? So they're going to take their shots. The running backs are big and physical. In times it's not just the one running back. They get both running backs in there. 2 of probably the biggest physical tight ends that we're going to see in the run game. The experienced offensive line. So I think, those are all key things. And I know their receivers are chomping at the bit to get involved in the pass game. So from a defensive standpoint, they're well coached. They try not to give up the big play, and they're going to find the times to pressure you. And they're in that 3-4 hybrid, and you don't know, are they bringing 4? They bring in 5. They do a good job of disguising that. It's a good football team, but we're also a good football team as well. And I think this is it's going to be a great game on Saturday, I think.
And Coach, talk to us too. I know you guys have played up there before, but the atmosphere there at that stadium is always packed. They always get really good crowds. It's always electric up there. Talk to us a little bit about that atmosphere on the road up there.
It's funny. It depends when we played them. I'll be curious. I think it's their fall break. So I'm not sure if their students are there or not. And I've told a few people, like, I'm kind of glad that we're on the road, to be honest with you. Sometimes being on the road and, a little bit less distractions, like all kinds of things. We always have all stuff going on at home, at our home games. So, being able to get on the bus and just go play the game that they love and play together. I'm just really proud of our guys to be at the point that we're at, that this is a big game. I think if a lot of people back in the offseason saw our non-conference and like, oh, geez, they're playing RPI, Hobart, and W&J.
Yep.
And I thought we've come out of that, a better football team, even with the loss. So you hate to say it, but, we needed to have that. And so we could learn from that. Probably no different than Cortland with the Grove City game. Since then, they've protected the football very well, since that game. And I'm sure that, that's been an emphasis. So, but looking forward to that football game.
Coach, how important, I always say maybe like the first 5-6 minutes of that game, the emotions for your team, how important is those first 5-6 minutes of that game for you guys?
Oh, it's huge. They got to take a deep breath and just play. They got saw wood. They're going to be fired up. But they got to play through the ups and downs of the game, and they've done that. They've done that. Like, you got to remember, you go back to W&J, they went right down the field and scored. First drive, right? Our guys didn't flinch. I really like that. There's a lot of new starters and I do a lot of watching these days and how they responded to that. I'm like, oh boy, we've got a special group, right? These guys play together and they play through the ups and downs of the games well. And we had a ton of penalties in that first game, and every week it's gone down, right? It went from I think it was 15. Yeah, they may have declined a couple, but we had 15. So it may have only been 12 in the stats. Then I think it was down to 8. And this past weekend, we may have only had 5. So I'm glad to see that. Our guys are settling in and playing hard, but playing between the whistles and learning how to do that. Because a lot of them, it's their first time playing. Everyone kind of forgets that. It's their first. Mason Moranowitz, it's his first time playing as much as he's playing. Mason Muscari, Nick DeForest, Isaiah Thomas. These guys did not play 60, 70 plays a game last year. And so just to watch those guys get better each week has been huge. On offense, same thing. Our starting left tackle, right, was playing defensive line last fall, right, and doing a great job. Our starting center, first year starting, right, and these guys are just playing together. So I've been proud of how our guys have played in those difficult games. And it just brings me back to my old college coach. And it's if you want to be good, you got to play good people. You want to win your conference, you got to play strong non-conference. And so I think we've set ourselves up for that.
And Coach, I think you said this our first episode. We talked about this is one of the selling points of coming to UC. You get to play in games like this against nationally ranked teams, and here's another opportunity for your team to go out there in the spotlight and play a really good team on the road. So, I mean, it's a great selling tool for UC to be able to play in games that mean something.
I'm glad you bring it up. Many times as you go to recruit the best, we're trying to get the guys, don't go walk on somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. Don't go play Division II, right? Come play in one of the best conferences in the country in an unbelievable atmosphere, right? With a great culture. And, our coaching staff in our university have done a great job of being able to, recruit and find guys that fit our school. We have a great university and some amazing majors and, but yeah, that recruiting to the conference is a big deal,
And I think it's awesome, Coach. I think since you've came to UC, I know you talk about you're the old guy now in the conference, but I think it's great though because the energy that you have, it's we'll go. We're not scared to go play anybody. I know you talked about that non-conference schedule, and I don't think a lot of people thought that followed D3 probably didn't think you guys would come out at 3-1, which you could have been 4-0 easily with the Hobart game, but I don't think anybody really thought you guys would come out of it the way you guys did. But then I go back and I'm sitting here saying to myself, there's not a game on the schedule you look at and you say, let's go compete and let's go play. These are those types of games where you look at and you say, we have nothing to lose. We have everything to gain. Let's go open up some eyes on the road this week.
It really is. In more and more of the interviews, I've been pleased with how the players and coaches talk, right? Because our guys are all on their phones and they're on social media. And what's nice is, we're not the only people that, hey, we got to go 1-0 this week, right? And you hear that now. And so I think a lot of that positive messaging in college football is there, which is great. So it kind of reinforces, if some D1 coach says it, what Coach Klaus or Coach McClendon or Coach Zanelevich is saying to our guys, because they're really dialed in, because our guys love football. So, it's it's we're excited to play the game, right? And we're not a big give anybody any bulletin board material type of program. Our guys know better, and we're just going to give a lot of respect to our opponent. And looking forward to Saturday. Cannot wait for Saturday. Well, we have one more day of work. We have important practice tomorrow to just kind of clean up our game plans. And one thing we've learned is that like we prepare our guys for stuff that we don't even see on film. And I really give credit to my coaching staff. And if there's a coverage that maybe they didn't run on film, we know, what, they're going to run it against us. If there's something offensively, like Coach McClendon's throwing trick plays at them and doing all this stuff because that just seems to be, as we slowly chip away at this thing and build our program, we tell guys we're always going to get their best game, right? And Cortland's they're going to give us their best game that they've played so far, and our guys have bought into that, and that's how we've got built into our preparation. So it's our job to put them in pressure all week so they can just go have fun on Saturday and go perform.
Coach, I feel like that gap in the Empire 8, though, whether it's with yourself and some of the other teams, like I feel like that gap has closed. I mean, Cortland's been the top dog for a while, but I feel like those middle of the pack teams now, like they're close. They're inching a lot closer to being those top teams. I know, like we're talking about you guys here tonight and every week, but I feel like that gap's closing a little bit. Is that due to recruiting and the success of some of these programs?
Or which gap are you talking about? With like us and some other places?
Yeah, I think some of the mid-tier teams, like in the middle of the pack, I think are much closer now to catching the Cortland States and catching those top dogs. I think that conference overall has gotten so much better over the years. I think that window's closing a little bit.
Well, I think we obviously had a lot of turnover in coaches.
Yep.
Right. And you can already see Coach Rogers is doing a really good job at Hartwick. You already see that. You can see Coach Raby is doing a nice job at Fisher and what they're doing right now. I know they had a tough loss to Rochester, but they turn around and beat Alfred, I believe, this past weekend, right? So I think that's kind of what's different this year, which is unique, is the turnover in coaches and who can get things going as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
What's been nice for us is I've had some consistency with Coach McClendon, with Coach Klaus, with Coach Anilovic. That's been big. A lot of my younger coaches are all new, but 3/4 of them played for us, right? So they know the expectation. They kind of know the culture. And then we've had some great guys from outside. Coach Lou being from Bethune-Cookman, Coach Tribino, a disciple, Coach Murph from Michigan. So we got some guys from the outside, which gives you good perspective. But top down, it's a great conference. You can't fall asleep. We learned those hard lessons last year. If anything, you talk about what we've learned, and the guys have talked about that this week. Like we learned the lessons about our season last year, and the difference between win and losing is a small margin, right? And so they're fired up. It's gonna be. It's big. Like we have Cortland, and then it's we're back home for Morrisville for our breast cancer awareness game, and that's a bye. And like you mentioned earlier, it's crazy to think here we are mid-season.
Yeah.
And one thing that I really like is I really right now our upperclassmen, particularly our freshmen, are figuring it out, but the upperclassmen are doing really well academically. And it's always like seems like right big conference games, it's like midterms. You know what I mean? And our guys are doing a good job of balancing that right now, which I've been pretty impressed. And be able to balance school with their midterms coming up here. I think next week is when they really start getting ready for those, along with getting ready for big Empire 8 play.
So, Coach, Saturday, when you guys take the field and the last time you talked to the team, what'll be your final message to the guys on Saturday?
You're going to ask me that one. I mean, I'm going to tell we play best, we play loose, and we have fun, and we play for each other, right? And don't make it bigger than it is, right? And play with love in your hearts for each other, right? And just go out there and have fun. I think you can see that the way we play, on the field. When a guy makes a play on the field, the whole sideline erupts. And I think we definitely, this is a tight group. And if they do that, and we'll put our best foot forward for sure.
All right, Coach. I said before we came on, you took the lead on me here in some picks. So I'm 500 at 11-11, and you're at 13-9. You had a good week last week at 4-2. So I got some new games this week, some new teams. The first one I'm going to give us is Iowa State at Cincinnati. I can't figure the lines out on here, but Vegas knows more than I do. Cincinnati's favored at home against Iowa State, who I love Matt Campbell. I think he's one of the best coaches in the country. But
He is. He's a very good coach, and he's got one of the best articles on recruiting. I don't know if I ever mentioned that to you. But I save and give it to the coaches every year to reread. And
I'll have to check it out.
Know who you are and recruit the people that fit your school, and don't be so worried about everybody else and who was offered. It's a really great article. But I'll go right out the gate. I'm going to go Iowa State on that one.
Yeah, I'm all in on this one. I think this is an easy one, but I don't know. Vegas always knows something. I just can't believe Cincinnati's favored.
Well, they got it. They've always, in the past, and I haven't watched them at all. They're a lot of explosives, right? They always seem to be fast. Maybe that could be the key, right? So I think certainly that'll be a key with Iowa State, limiting the Cincinnati explosive plays.
Yeah, and I think Cincinnati, I think the coach is Coach Satterfield, who was at App State over there. So, and this is another game. I can't figure this one out. So Vandy's off to the great start. Diego Pavia, the quarterback's getting a lot of attention. He's played well. And then Alabama comes in last week, and Kirby Smart's got a Bama problem because he can't beat Alabama, but not many teams can. Kalen DeBoer's got this thing going. They're a 10.5-point favorite to Vandy. Vandy beat them last year when they carried the goalposts through Nashville.
They did.
Which was really cool. You think Vandy gets them again, or you think Bama's just cruising right now?
I think on this one, again, I love what they're doing at Vanderbilt. I think that's outstanding. I was very happy for them last year. But I think right now, Alabama coming off that Georgia game, I think they're in a good place right now, and I'm going to go with Alabama on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you here. I love Kalen DeBoer. I think he's got this thing figured out. Ty Simpson, the quarterback's playing really well, and you don't know how big that Florida State, that first game trying to figure things out against Alabama. I think Alabama's got it figured out. It's a big line though, 10.5 at home. So we'll see. But I'm with you on that one. So far we agree on both. I got to pick a couple different ones here to try to pick some up. Virginia had the upset win over Florida State at Virginia. This is another one of the ones I can't figure this out. Louisville's undefeated and not ranked. They're a 7.5-point favorite at home to Virginia. You think Virginia keeps this thing going, or Louisville? I love their coach. Coach Brom does a really good job. Played there. You think Louisville gets them at home?
I'm going to go Louisville.
Oh. I kind of like Louisville too, but I don't know. I might have to switch this one. I don't know. I'm going to go Louisville too. I like Jeff Brom. I think he's a great coach. I loved him when he played. That line's just really weird because Virginia's ranked coming off the big win, and they're a 7.5-point underdog on the road in that game. Just a weird line.
I don't want to go into games being ranked. Right, it just gives more feed to fuel the fire of the other team.
So here's the big game. This is Miami, Florida State. Florida State, we just talked about, loses to Virginia, so Florida State is home. Miami's looked really good in the trenches, offensively, defensively. The front four is playing really well. Carson Beck looks like the old Carson Beck. Mario Cristobal, maybe this is the year he gets to the playoff and has a chance to win a national championship. Florida State, this is another one. They're a 4.5-point underdog at home to Miami. You like the Noles at home?
I'm going to go Miami.
I'm as much as I want to go with Coach Hand in Florida State. I just saw a nice interview with Coach, did a podcast with a Westmoreland alum that he went to school with. It was a great interview. And I'm pulling for him, but unfortunately, I think Miami right now is I think Miami's the best team in the country other than Ohio State. So I'm going to roll with the U in this one as well. All right, Mississippi State at A&M. Mississippi State had the game last week against Tennessee, all but one. In the last overtime, Tennessee scored, but Mississippi State controlled that game. They go to A&M. I feel like not many people are talking about A&M. 14.5-point favorite at home. Does A&M continue to keep this thing going?
They do. We'll go A&M.
Yeah, I'm on the train with you there, Coach. This last game might be. We always got to pick the Syracuse game.
We do have multiple weeks. We got multiple weeks.
Syracuse last week.
This is tough. It's like this is one of those ones where
they didn't look good last week.
Last week, if I voted my heart, I would have went Penn State, but I went with Oregon, and My heart says
Yeah.
Syracuse, but this is tough.
I'm gonna
So
go SMU. Syracuse looked I know it was the quarterback, the backup there, his first game. He didn't look that great last week at all. I don't know, SMU, I know they went to the playoff last year. I love their coach.
who are their 2
6
wins against? Who SMU's 2 wins
I don't
against?
know who the 2 are against, but I do know that, a 16.5-point line is a really big
You know
lineup.
what? This is gonna be the one where you may get me, but I'm gonna go Syracuse.
Are you? Are you just doing that so the local people like you and they don't say
No,
coach
you
is
know
going
what? I
against
tell you what,
Syracuse? You think they get it right this week?
I could
They
see that.
looked really bad last week.
I'll tell you what, when I heard Fran Brown's interview, um, he talked positively about his quarterback.
He did.
You know what I mean? And like, they're really good coaches, right? And so like they kind of had a week to figure out without their starter, which was awful for them to lose their starter like that. And I think they've got some guns on there. They got some weapons, and even though they're down their quarterback, I think that they like to back up, and I think they're going to put themselves in a position to have an opportunity to win the game. I think it'll be a tight one. I think it'll certainly be a tight one, but I think Syracuse can pull it out.
I think they'll figure the offense out. I'm more worried about defensively. They couldn't stop anybody last week. I mean, Duke did whatever they wanted to do, but we'll see, because losing that quarterback really hurts. They got a tough schedule coming up. They play a lot of good teams in the ACC, those middle-of-the-pack games that, as I said earlier in the year, they can go 50-50. But I got to bring on so my guy Dingo Talk here, I follow him on Twitter. He follows us all the time. He retweets them. Moose Hogan lives on.
We've got some parents that have alter egos and have some fun with it. So Moose Hogan was a character. I don't know. There's some other ones though that I even like. I was a big wrestling fan back in the day when Mr. Maldonado was as well, and so I was a huge Hulk Hogan fan and Macho Man and all that stuff. So, I mean, there were people that all of my guys, whether the Utica guys that have coached throughout the Utica coaching tree, like we're all talking about Mr. Maldonado's videos every week. I think we miss him. And then Mr. Malzahn with his all day football is got his own logo. With hoodies going on, and I love it. I love it. Back in the day, we had a tight end from Somers, Mr. Muller, and he had these, let the Mooses loose shirts that he had made. And so, I love when my parents get into it. It makes it fun.
Coach, what's really cool is ever since we've been doing this show, I've met more D3 guys that follow Division III football, which I think is really cool, because obviously everybody follows a lot, the D1 programs, and there's a lot of guys that follow D2, and there's a lot of good D2 programs out there across the country, but the following for the D3 is special, man. I didn't know there was that many people outside of, myself, who just loves college football, but D3 special, man. There's a lot of good people that follow everybody across the country.
Well, just the sheer numbers, right? 250 teams, the history behind it, programs that have had football for over 100, 120, 150 years that have had programs. It's pretty wild. Last week going into homecoming, I tried to do as good a job, or we tried to do as good a job as a program to kind of throw some recognition to the original pioneers, the guys that played at Utica, from 67 to 71. There's some great football lore there, because back then everyone was playing club, it was club, they're playing Cortland and St. Lawrence. And, it's funny, they used to call Utica, they call them the Utes. If you look at some of the old articles, and they played Colgate and Hamilton, and because there wasn't really any divisions, but you talk about playing for the love of the game. And when our alumni come back and they talk about their locker room was in the basement of North Hall, and they had hooks to put up their helmet on a hook, and if their helmet had a face mask, right? But for sure, I mean, Division III football, particularly in the Northeast, it's growing in the West. It's growing. Just you don't have as much of it, which is a shame. Particularly like in the South, you got states that really don't have much Division III football. So just the sheer number of guys that played is big, and it just was such an impact on their lives. That's what it's been for them. Was for me.
Well, Coach, let's go watch the Yankees. Give them hell on Saturday. I love talking with you every week, and we'll look forward to it again next week.
Appreciate it, Rock. Fear the Moose.
All right, Coach. So that was Coach Blaise Faggiano, and love him, man. Love talking to him every week. I wish I had more time to to sit on here and talk college football with him, but the Yankees are on, so I got to get him to watch the Yankees. Me too. But hey, let's go give it a shot on Saturday. Let's go play a nationally ranked team. And that's what Utica's going to do, and they're going to give them hell. They're going to play hard for 4 quarters. And we'll talk to Coach again next week. So again, if you're following on YouTube across all social media platforms, make sure to hit subscribe to all the shows. You can catch me on any social media platform, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, and more. So on behalf of the Rock Pile, I always say here, the Rock Pile is where dreams become